There's an apartment on the fourth floor of a building in a mid-sized American city. A woman named Priya lives there. She's 34, works in HR, has a rescue dog named Mingo, and a credit score of 741. Every month, on the 1st, she opens her laptop and hits submit on a $1,650 rent payment. On time, always. She has never missed a payment in 6 years. She is the ideal tenant. Over these 6 years, Priya has built zero equity. Her landlord, Phil, has collected $118,800 in gross revenue from her residency alone, capital he uses to fund his own mortgage, property taxes, and maintenance, while driving a 2023 Range Rover. Priya remains financially disciplined, yet her largest monthly expense is actively building Phil's balance sheet instead of her own. My name is Nick. Today, we are going to look at who is actually getting rich in the rent equation. The average American renter spends 9.3 years renting before either buying a home or giving up on the idea entirely. At the current median rent, that represents $221,158 in total payments over a renting lifetime, $250,000. Gone. No asset, no return. Hold that number. We're coming back to it. You can budget, clip coupons, and keep your credit score pristine and still fall behind. The financial architecture of renting is specifically designed to reward the person on the other side of the lease. Passively renting forever ensures you exit the housing market with nothing but receipts. Let's run the actual math. Meet Priya and Marcus. Same age, same city, same income. Both 28 in 2018, both making $68,000 a year. Priya rented a high-quality apartment for $1,500 a month. Over 6 years, her rent payments totaled over $100,000, leaving her with no ownership in the building. Marcus bought a $240,000 condo with a total monthly housing cost of $1,405. This chart shows the mechanics of leverage. Marcus put 5% down, that's $12,000. When his home appreciated at the historical average of 4.3%, he earned that return on the full $240,000 value of the home, not just his initial cash. Because he captured the appreciation on the bank's money as well as his own, his return on his actual cash invested reached 86%. Marcus also benefits from forced savings. Every time he pays his mortgage, roughly $400 is diverted directly to paying down his principal balance. It is a system of involuntary wealth building. The mortgage structure removes the need for willpower, converting a portion of his housing cost into owned equity every single month. The rent and invest the difference strategy often fails in practice. Every dollar of Priya's rent disappears into the landlord's accounts. Without the automatic diversion mechanism of a mortgage, most people spend the surplus they intended to invest. Real-world behavior rarely matches the discipline required to beat the automatic equity growth of a homeowner. By 2024, Marcus has $120,000 in equity, while Priya has zero. Their wealth gap is a direct product of the financial structures they chose to inhabit. Both worked hard and budgeted well, but only one built an asset. Understanding the current struggle requires looking at the post-war era. This was a national campaign to turn renters into owners through the GI Bill and the 30-year fixed-rate loan. The system was engineered to push the middle class into ownership. This strategy worked for decades. By 2004, American homeownership hit its peak at nearly 70%. The 2008 financial crisis broke that trajectory. Millions lost their homes, and millions more decided renting was the safer path. An entire generation watched the housing market collapse and developed a deep-seated fear of buying. Institutional investors capitalized on this fear. They purchased hundreds of thousands of single-family starter homes out of foreclosure and converted them into permanent rentals. This removed thousands of properties from the reach of first-time buyers, ensuring a steady stream of rent checks for large corporations. This created the down payment trap. If a $400,000 home appreciates by 4% annually, it gets $16,000 more expensive every year. Saving $1,000 a month only nets you $12,000 in a year. You are running backwards on an upward-moving escalator, as the target price rises faster than your ability to save. This entry barrier is the result of systematic capital allocation, designed to prioritize institutional returns over individual ownership. The system is functioning exactly as it was redesigned to work after 2008. Renting also carries a psychological cost called borrowed impermanence. Your housing security is entirely contingent on the landlord's plans. They can sell the building or hike the rent with 60 days' notice, leaving you with zero control over your primary environment. This lack of control bleeds into broader financial anxiety. It becomes difficult to commit to long-term retirement planning when your single largest monthly expense is volatile and subject to outside whims. This uncertainty shows up in the data. Homeowners have a median wealth of $231,000, while renters hold a median of just $10,400. The structure of ownership forces wealth accumulation, while the structure of renting creates a psychological environment that discourages long-term financial rooting. At retirement age, the divergence is stark. Marcus has a paid-off asset that provides stability. Priya is forced to drain her retirement savings to cover ongoing rent payments, making her financially vulnerable in her later years. Renting is the correct choice in specific scenarios. If you plan to move within 3 years, transaction costs, which can reach 10% of the purchase price, will likely erase any equity you build. Renting also makes sense in markets with extreme rent-to-price ratios or for individuals without an emergency fund. Ownership requires a financial cushion to cover inevitable maintenance, like a leaking roof or a failed furnace. While renting is a viable temporary strategy, treating it as a permanent solution without analyzing the long-term math is a financial surrender. Escaping the trap requires engineering an exit. Dominic lives in an expensive market where buying a traditional house felt impossible. He utilized an FHA loan with a 3.5% down payment to buy a duplex. By living in one unit and renting the other, he uses his tenant's rent to cover $850 of his mortgage. This strategy, called house hacking, reduced his effective housing costs to $470 a month. That $250,000 the average renter pays represents a permanent exit of capital from their life. While a homeowner sees a portion of their monthly payment return as equity, every cent of rent is a permanent loss of potential compound interest. If that same capital could be retained and invested at 8%, it would grow to over $1 million by retirement. Your monthly housing payment is a mandatory investment that will build either your future or your landlord's. Research first-time buyer programs and run the math for your specific city. The only way out of the rent trap is to stop cooperating with it.